Do y'all think that the better team won, or was this just a bad game?
They got a cloud hanging over their head.
You execute when you're supposed to execute, and we didn't do that. They were the better team in that game.
What's up, everybody? It's Wes, and after the heart palpitations of last week, I am ready for a bye week. Y'all's games were a little less exciting. We'll talk about the most exciting games of last week, give our current pick'em standings, dissect a few things in a speed round segment, and maybe have a fun opinion segment too, and make our picks for the upcoming games. But first, let's check in with our co-hosts, the best co-hosts in all the land. Matt, let's start with you first this time. How was your weekend, sir?
My fantasy football teams are all undefeated except for one, and that's okay. The Vols are rolling. It's 3 weeks till fall break, so I'm doing great. Everything's coming up for Fortson right now.
I hear you. Jesse, how about yourself?
I mean, I can't complain. My team did quite well this weekend, so I'm quite happy about it. I know we'll talk.
Quite well. As a matter of fact, they're the first ones up to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into those.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
All right, so Alabama at Wisconsin. Bama winning this one decisively, 42-10. I got the point here. So just a quick summary. Tyler Van Dyke went out early in this one with a knee injury. Braden Locke came in, and Wisconsin just really not able to get much offense going with him in. Meanwhile, Bama clicking on all cylinders on offense and cleaned up some of those penalty issues we've seen in recent weeks. I texted y'all during the game saying, like, as a fan, I was incredibly disappointed because I'd hoped we'd see Bama have like a test, but instead Wisconsin just really couldn't do anything against them with their backup QB. And Bama's just too good at their skill positions to be denied against a defense like Wisconsin's. So, Jesse, what were your thoughts on how your Crimson Tide looked against Wisconsin?
I think we looked great. I think I've had a couple of Wisconsin fans say, we took their quarterback out in the first 5 minutes, but if you watch it, and even the announcer said it was before the hit that he messed up his ankle. So it wasn't even us. But also on that note, there was a quarterback battle there before they decided pretty late on that, they weren't going to go with Locke. So I would say that very well could have been their starting quarterback. It didn't really matter. And I don't know that it would have mattered if the starter was in, to be honest. I think we obviously moved the ball really well on offense. I mean, Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams, it was insane to watch.
By the way, I don't know if y'all knew this, but Ryan Williams is 17 years old.
17.
I don't know if anyone's mentioned that or not. So.
I know, but honestly, I need to be reminded. And I know they said it probably 35 times in the broadcast, but that person is 17 years old. Just take a moment to imagine, number one, who you were at 17, but also your athletic ability. And I know that there are going to be people out there that are like Uncle Rico saying that they could throw a ball over a mountain when they were 17. I highly doubt that. Ryan Williams is insane to watch play, and I'm so excited for what his career will look like at Alabama. But Jalen Milroe, and they were throwing it around in the broadcast. We know it doesn't mean anything because it's a stupid trophy, but already Heisman talks. He was 5th in the Heisman race last year, even after getting benched early on in the season, but he threw for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's crazy. And they had some stats about other quarterbacks who have been successful in the air and on the ground during the broadcast as well. But really happy with how we were. I think the one critique that I would make is we're really good at those explosive plays. Those all of a sudden we're just launching it down the field. What we need to work on is inch by inch, down by down, getting down the field instead of waiting for an explosive play, because we had to punt several times as well. So that would be my one critique there. And then I think our defense did better. Obviously, we had all of our starters back in their positions on defense, which I think helped exponentially. And I was also really happy that a crew that typically calls only Big Ten games and rarely calls an SEC game, had nothing but really great things to say about the SEC in general, but also gave a lot of love to Alabama. So all in all, a really great Saturday.
Yeah. Matt, what were your impressions on this?
This was a snooze fest. I was talking to my dad, and he was, because I went to dinner with him Saturday night. He's like, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, I wasn't. It's the Big Ten. Once you take Michigan, not this year's Michigan. Once you take Michigan or Ohio State out, what's left?
Right.
Not much. Not much. I was looking through the stat line, and the number that kind of steps out or jumps out of the page at me is third down efficiency for Wisconsin. They're 3 for 14.
Yeah.
So not very successful on third down in this particular ball game. They were 3 for 4 on fourth down, which is something. But yeah, just Wisconsin was outclassed. I feel like from the couple of minutes I watched of this game too, because again, it was a snoozer. There was a lot of holding. Wisconsin was having to pull and tackle guys just to keep them from getting to Jalen Milroe. So yeah, that kind of a dull game. I was really impressed with Williams. I thought he looked really good. That's somebody that we're going to have to keep an eye on going forward, especially if he's that good already and he's only 17. That could be dangerous,
He's
especially
given
if he has
so much
Milroe.
love on Instagram to the Alabama women's hockey team right now. What a
Really?
sweet baby angel. It's a club team. I honestly, I don't even think we had women's hockey when I was there. And now we do. And he is just given them so much hype and love. So that is so sweet.
Yeah. All right. I assume that's all you had, Matt, on that one.
I had nothing else. Again, this one was
Snooze fest.
boring.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Well, let's move to LSU at South Carolina. This one was not a snooze fest.
This one was not boring.
No, it was not.
LSU winning this one 36-33 right at the end there. Jesse got the point here. First of all, before we get into the actual game, an incredible environment at Carolina with game day there. So, I mean, you could tell they were just loving it. Atmosphere was intense and exciting. Carolina's offense in this game was really clicking with Lenora Sellers. And LSU's defense, once again, just kind of looked like they didn't have any answers. With a few big play exceptions, they did get, I think, a fumble. Not sure what else, but definitely overall looked like they were struggling. But Sellers goes down with an ankle injury near the half, and Carolina just did not have much to offer offensively after that happened, other than some key runs by Raheem Sanders, obviously there. Robbie Ashford just not able to get the same results at quarterback, not able to get that spark going on offense, and LSU just able to kind of slowly but surely whittle away at that lead and eventually take the lead. So, by the way, South Carolina also had 2 pick sixes erased by penalties in this game. Two of them. So, Matt, let's start with you this time. What were your thoughts on this game?
I was not anticipating this. I think I don't remember who. So Jesse got the point for this. I was not anticipating Carolina to even be in this game, and then come to find out they actually made a game of it. They were looking really good there in that first half, but turnovers, my goodness,
Yeah.
just so many turnovers. I think there was 5 or 6 total in this game, and one of which got erased because of that unnecessary roughness on the quarterback call. Which, by the way, I don't hate the call, but I also don't like the call because it was one of those Midland hits. It was really unnecessary, and I'm sure that kid felt really bad about it afterward because he got caught, not because he put a head on Nussmeier. But I digress. Again, great football game. This is what we want at SEC football. We want really strong, competitive games, and we got that with LSU South Carolina this week. It doesn't hurt my heart at all that Beamer got his heart broken a little bit. It doesn't, because Schadenfreude, and all that. But, I mean, an entertaining finish. A great game as far as that goes. But, man, we got to clean up those turnovers.
Yeah. Jesse, your thoughts?
It's not even just the turnovers, right? It's those, I guess, I mean, it is, turning on the ball, but 13 penalties.
Yeah.
13
is a lot.
Is a lot. And I know Coach Beamer addressed it in his post-game conference and said, obviously we're disappointed by that and we got to clean things up, but that's an egregious amount of penalties, especially in a game that is this tight and that you had such a lead in and you had your starting quarterback go out. The team just they have to be more disciplined. And it does start with the coach. I think obviously we have teams in the past that have had a lot of penalties and had great coaching, but I do think it starts with the coach. And I think Beamer's got to address this because they had a chance to make such a statement. They were ranked 13th out of 16 in the SEC. They had a chance to show that they are an SEC contender, that they are someone that other teams should take seriously. And they fumbled it.
Yeah.
That's not great. Now, if you're an LSU fan and player, this is a great thing. Now, it was not great for most of the game, and they barely squeaked by with this one. But they needed this because there was a lot of grumbling after losing to Cal, and they needed this to come back from it. So for me, it's one of those things where you were so close to victory, and to beat yourself is really, really frustrating. I mean, still Sellers, regardless, he went out, he had a great showing, a great game. He actually had the longest run by a quarterback in South Carolina history, which is pretty cool. His 75-yard kind of burst down the field was the longest for a South Carolina quarterback. And Raheem Sanders did a great job as well. So there's a lot of positives, I think, coming out of this game. There's a lot of things that Carolina fans can look forward to. But when you are put on a main stage with a historic program like an LSU and you get a 17-point lead, you have to keep it if you want to be taken seriously.
Well, Beamer doesn't he doesn't mince words. He's kind of an open book, and I wonder if sometimes that doesn't serve him well, because in the halftime interview, even then, he was talking to the interviewer and he was like, "Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to screw this up." And I was like, who says that? Like, especially as a head coach, who wants to put that even into their players' heads? You know what I mean? It's like, let's not think of it that way. Let's think about how to close this thing out instead of how are we going to screw this up.
Cleaning things up at half.
Right. It was just a very odd choice of words.
Too many penalties. Too many penalties. Too many turnovers. All things that could be fixed. You just got to be. Yeah. It's got to be smart. I hate that pick six got erased because, man, that was a heck of a play.
Oh, it would have sealed the game.
I don't know. And I went back and watched that clip a couple times. I was trying to figure out where Nussmeier was trying to put that ball. I guess they tried to explain it to the linebacker, had walked up to the line like he was blitzing and then backed off into coverage. But like he's right there. How do you not see him?
It was
not Kyler Murray. You can see him.
No, I know. And the other problem is I think LSU had 9 tackles for loss in this game. So they were back there quite a bit. Or sorry, South Carolina had 6 tackles for loss in this game. So they were back there a little bit. And then maybe that played a part. And that's something else we don't really talk about much. Like, especially like talking about James Pierce at Tennessee. Right now, if you look at his stat line, it's not super impressive. But there's a lot of intangibles that don't get on the stat line that do show up in the game. Very much like QB hurries, QB knockdowns, all that stuff. So again, that might have played a part as well.
Right. Yep. So tough. It's kind of one of those where if you win the game, what a great, grind it out win. If you lose, it's just devastating. So
and to have game day there and to have that within reach.
There was a clip I saw I think it was on TikTok where a bunch of South Carolina people had left. And then all of a sudden they roared back and everybody started running back into the stands just to see that disappointment at the end. That
sucks.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
That's at least one appointment with your therapist.
Yeah, another game that was headed to a disappointing end, at least for Mizzou fans, was Boston College at Missouri. Missouri winning this one 27-21, barely. I mean, obviously in the second half, they turned things around. They struggled to get that offense going in the first half. Not a ton going on offensively for Mizzou, but were able to turn the tide in the second half and get the win at home. But I have to ask, Jesse, is there any concern with this offense, whether or not they can get things rolling? I mean, they were at home. It should be relatively easy against Boston College, right? But am I missing something?
A Bill O'Brien coach.
I knew you would have something to say about that.
Let's preface with that. A Bill O'Brien coached Boston College.
Jesse has nothing good to say about that.
And you had the double whammy with him, didn't you? With Bama and New England.
I did. And look how it turned out both of those times. So like not an impressive thing there, but we were talking about penalties. Let's continue to talk about penalties. They had 8 penalties for 78 yards, including 2 personal fouls and 2 flags for unsportsmanlike conduct. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. They did not put themselves in a position to succeed. Now, eventually they did, but when you are working against yourself with undisciplined football and football that Drinkwitz said in his post-game presser that it was selfish football. He took some of the blame, but he also just called it selfish football. And I think that's exactly it.
They didn't circle the wagons.
You can't just assume you can do what you want. And I understand they don't call it on every play. If they were going to call penalties on every play, we'd never get through a football game. It would be like 7 hours because there's something. And a couple seasons ago, when we talked to one of our guests who was an SEC ref, he even said, if it's not going to like super influence the play, we're probably not going to call it just because we'll never get through a game.
Right.
If they're calling it, it's going to influence the play more often than not. But if I'm Mizzou, I'm cleaning up my penalties, hopefully. And I think another thing is just taking your opponent seriously. I joke about it being a Bill O'Brien coach team. Take your opponent seriously. It doesn't matter if it's Boston College. If we've learned anything in a very short amount of time this season, it's that you can get surprised. Looking at you, Notre Dame, ask them. You can get surprised. FSU, ask them. So I think, they're going to have to get more discipline, more composure as they head into conference play, because this kind of stuff is not going to bode well for them in conference play. And Mizzou is one of those programs that's trying so hard to make everybody take them seriously. You can't be taken seriously when you have 78 yards worth of penalties and you put up that kind of look against Boston College.
Yeah. Matt?
I think Jesse got that one right on the head. There's really nothing else to add except for the fact that Mizzou probably should have lost this game. If Boston College scores at least a touchdown in the third quarter, they win this thing flat out. If I'm a Mizzou fan, I'm probably a little concerned with why we're having trouble with Boston College, who is not even a perennial power in the ACC, let alone a mid-tier or upper-tier team in the SEC. That's kind of disconcerting. I'm wondering if the hype train is starting to run out of some steam with Missouri. I'm very curious as to see how Drinky and them are going to circle the wagons here on a Toughness Tuesday and all the other little coachisms that Drinky loves. I wasn't overly impressed with this win. Oh, with the dog. With the dog. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, yeah, the robot dog.
And he sounded so dorky. He was like, I'm over here nervous as crap. And you, Coach Saban, are over there making karaoke jokes. It's like the nerd that finally gets invited to the cool kids table because they need a tutor, and he's just trying too hard.
Yeah, it was
too hard. You're a bad 80s movie.
Oh my god.
It's generally cringe. Although someone's buying in. I mean, obviously
all the Missouri fans love him to death. Yeah. I heard a rumor today that if and we'll talk about Florida in a minute. I heard a rumor today that if they let Napier go, they may go after Drinky.
No.
Like,
oh man. That's
ooh.
I don't see that would seem like more of a lateral. It's kind of the same thing to me. I don't know. But anyways.
No.
I don't care for that. Don't care for
like that.
Not a fan.
By the way, I forgot to say what the pick'em was for this game. Jesse and I both got the point in this one. Let's move to Texas A&M at Florida. A&M with a rout here. This final score is not really indicative of how the game went.
Not at all.
33-20. Matt gets the point outright in this one. Connor Wigman was a game time decision with his upper body injury. Ultimately, they decided not to test it, so they started freshman Marcel Reed, and no problem. Florida,
fine against Florida.
Yeah, Florida really struggled at home again, and the secondary was just leaving guys just absolutely wide open left and right, and So, fans were chanting things, running into the tunnel at halftime about fire Napier and all this stuff. Ultimately, we don't have any news about Billy Napier that I know of, unless y'all have seen something before we've recorded.
I've heard a lot of grumblings from a Florida fan that I work with, but I have not heard anything.
I've got a lot more context and perspective on this since we talked to Dan last week, which I really appreciated him being so candid about. But there was the Board of Trustees meeting that they called for Sunday morning, which seemed like, an outright signal that something is happening. But it all was possibly sound and fury signifying nothing. I don't really know. But Jesse, what were your thoughts on Florida losing to A&M like this?
It's just honestly at this point, just kind of sad. I mean, it's not even fun to make fun of.
Man.
It's not they had 3 turnovers. It was sloppy. It's like you said, the secondary just left people wide open. I don't feel like the players at Florida right now feel like they have anything to play for. That's what it looks like. I mean, and I don't blame them necessarily. They're like, all right, we're here. We got to get through this. I think Florida is still, even next season, regardless of what happens with Napier, unless they get a really big name hire that is something people are splashing across headlines, I think they're still going to struggle because people are going to transfer, and it doesn't feel like there's heart in the Florida football program right now. And it's kind of sad because regardless of how you feel about them, you want them to do well, because when you beat them, it feels better. It's like, if you think they're a villain, you still want the villain to be a big opponent. You don't want it to be like, oh, I'm an adult and I just took a toddler's, candy from them. Like, that's not fun.
There's no reward in that. Yeah.
No, it's sad.
And like Dan was saying last week, one of his fears is that this disappointment turns into apathy, and at some point people just don't care. So, Matt, what were your thoughts on this one?
I think Florida's got a really tough decision to make at this point, because we were talking about it off the air. I feel like if you do fire Napier, are you going to be able to get anybody? Are you going to be able to back the truck up? Are you going to be able to find somebody that's willing to go into that environment and try to rebuild a whole program again? Like, because Florida's in a historic slump right now. I think this is the worst. What was it? This is the worst coaching tenure since the 40s or
40s,
something
I think
like
it was
that.
1949.
Yeah, I mean, Napier right now, according to the 3-second Google Wikipedia search I just ran, is 12-16 at Florida right now. He's making $7 million a year to go 12-16 in the SEC. So that's not going to cut the mustard. As far as this game goes, again, Wes, you're not wrong. The score was not indicative of how far out this game was. A&M was ahead the entire time. They didn't really ever look back. And another thing, and Jesse, I'm shocked you didn't talk about this, because I know that you usually keep an eye on it. 13 penalties for Texas A&M. That's a lot. 110 yards of that. So again, just not pretty at all. Both teams, again, just look. Florida looks bad. A&M looks great.
No other way to say it.
A&M looks great by comparison, but they're still fairly mid, I would say. It's not a good look.
Because this is one that Florida should have been able to take advantage of. It's a home game. It's against an A&M team that doesn't really know necessarily what their identity is right now. They got a brand new guy freshman starting at quarterback.
New coach.
Brand new coach. I mean, everything is in flux right now over there at College Station, and it's like, and you can't take advantage of that, or at least make it close. That tells the tale of how things are at Florida right now.
When you are booing your coach that is in a "please don't drink and drive" commercial,
and they're booing,
things are unwell. Things are unwell.
They booed the "don't drink and drive" commercial by Billy.
Although I will say, this was it was this game, right, that had the butt targeting.
Yes, it was this game that had the guy who was ejected for targeting not anyone's cranium but their butt. So
we're titling the show "Butt Targeting."
Butt targeting.
We've already made that decision.
Yes.
Was it technically targeting because of the way in which he tackled?
I just love the
Yes.
conversation, even just surrounding it.
Does it, does it, does it matter? I mean, I know that it probably still hurt the defender, right? Like that's what a lot of the targeting is to
And it's a
protect.
danger to the guy launching himself into the butt, right?
Yeah, it's you're putting
Oh my
your
God,
you're
guys.
putting your brain
Let's
in
go.
danger.
Let's go. Come on.
But I never thought I would see something that was equal to the butt fumble. The Mark Sanchez Jets butt fumble, and now we
Yeah.
have butt
The
targeting.
butt fumble's still worse.
Yes.
Still worse, but butt targeting
Butt
just the
targeting just
fact that
sounds worse.
you had to leave the game for butt
bad.
targeting.
Pretty bad. By the way,
Yeah.
guys, I just pulled up Graham Mertz's career stats just to kind of go through this because anytime we look at a premier air quotes, anytime we look at a quarterback in the SEC, we like to see some progression. And granted, it's only been a couple games, but I think we're dealing with a regression here because if you look at his stat line from last year, he threw for a little over 2,900 yards. He had a 73% a completion average. He threw 20 TDs, 3 interceptions. So far this season, he's at a 66% completion percentage. He's thrown for a little under 300 yards, and he's already thrown 2 interceptions.
Yeah. Keep in mind
It's
he
not
did
good.
have
It's
a
not good.
concussion, and he's coming back from a concussion. I know Florida fans wanted to see a lot of DJ Lagway in this game, and I mean we did see some of him. I don't know if it's enough to make Florida fans happy or not, but yeah, maybe that's the direction they need to take. I don't know. All right, let's move to Georgia at Kentucky. Georgia winning in a baseball score here, 13-12. I mean, high
Really
scoring
good baseball game.
Yeah, high scoring baseball game. Jesse gets the point here. Yeah, so Brock Vandegrift facing off against his old team. Stats aren't glamorous, but he made things challenging for Georgia's defense. Just that added, got to account for the run and all that. I am just absolutely over the stubborn commitment to run between the tackles when it's not working. If you want to try to establish the run, fine. Got no problem with that. It is Mike Bobo. I get it. But after the 15th run up the middle, get stopped for no gain, like in a row,
Yes.
or
You knew this was what's going to happen. It's
Maybe
a
we need to
Mike
switch things
Bobo offense.
Been
But
here
see,
before.
my problem with Bobo in the past was not necessarily the repetition. It was the big play calls where we would get in a big play situation and you just end up scratching your head like, what was that?
Yeah.
But this is like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's just believing in the guys up front being able to make the holes to run through or what, but it's just we got to switch things up. And later in the game, when we started to work, the edges and try some quick passes, guess what? We started to move the ball. And once we did that, it made Kentucky's defense, which is really good, by the way, made them get more honest and not commit only to the run, which in turn allowed us to have more successful runs up the middle. So it's kind of like if you want to have success in an area and you're not having it, maybe try something else, and that opens that up. I don't know. If I can figure that out, I just don't understand what's going on. In the end, Georgia survives, and to Kirby's delight, they managed to get a win and tons of video to look at and improve, because I guarantee you that nobody in that locker room is satisfied with that level of effort and that level of discipline. So thankfully, we have a week off to kind of recover and for the coaches to try to drive home some of those lessons before they have to face a very good Bama team in a hostile environment on the road. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Georgia at Kentucky?
This is typical of the last couple of years. I can't remember. I think it was either the crew that was calling the game. I heard somebody say that this is like the third straight time that Georgia's been held under 20 points in Kirby's last 5 years or something, and every time it's been Kentucky. Somehow Kentucky always seems to have the number, and I don't know if it's because they usually play them relatively early in the season, where we're still trying to get things nailed down, but it seems like Kentucky always seems to have Georgia's number. It's like how
usually on
South
the
Carolina
road too when we had the issues.
Yeah, it's kind of like how South Carolina and Georgia was in like the mid-aughts, early teens. It seemed like anytime Georgia was going to stumble, it was usually going to be at a Carolina game. But, I mean, kudos to Kentucky. Kroger Field came out ready for this thing. Everybody was really fired up. Just Kentucky can't score touchdowns, and that's a problem. That is a problem. There was some silly stuff on Twitter over the summer about Brock Vandagriff being a potential dark horse candidate for Heisman and a couple other things, and I'm just like, that ain't it, man. That's not going to get it done.
Not
And
enough weapons around him.
there's
to really
not.
warrant
There's
that.
really not. Now Brock may be a great quarterback, but the problem is that Kentucky doesn't have they don't have the Jimmies and Joes, as they like to say. So again, Georgia finds a way to survive. They did lose their number 1 ranking, which I don't really think is going to make a difference because that's
I think that's
poison.
better actually in the
Yeah,
long
you're
run.
probably right. But I mean, kudos for Georgia finding a way. But I don't know. The schedule ain't any easier.
No. Jesse, your thoughts?
I mean, I'm going to bring it up again. Penalties. Georgia had 9 for 85 yards compared to Kentucky's 4. That, again, a lot of penalties. You're working against yourself. And we saw it in the game. Georgia, on offense, you're doing something, and then you just have to slide on back, and you're just giving a really good Kentucky defense even more momentum. And same on the defensive side of the ball. You're giving somewhat of a anemic Kentucky offense a little bit of help. You can't give the other team help. You can't work against yourself. And that's kind of what it felt like. I mean, I don't think Kentucky, they went in there certainly wanting to win this game, and then they believed they could for most of it, but they didn't necessarily have to win this game, right? Like there was no expectations that they were going to win going into it, but they did need a win after that lackluster performance against South Carolina.
Yeah.
And
it looked like a completely
again,
different team.
They did, and they were so close. They were so close, and they couldn't get it done. God bless their kicker. I mean, he was working. He was out there working. But Georgia looked, like you mentioned, I mean, you talked about it already on offense. They looked anemic on offense, truly. They were not adjusting. They were trying the same old thing, and it just wasn't working. Kentucky was getting a lot of pressure on Beck, and I just was not impressed by the play calling. And then again, it was kind of sloppy with all of those penalties. So Georgia has a lot to look at. I think this showed the world that Georgia is beatable, but you have to be able to do what you need to do in order to beat them. I think there's certainly, as an Alabama fan, I'm glad we have a bye week, because I imagine Georgia's going to be hitting the film hard, and they're going to be practicing. They were embarrassed, and they don't want to get in this situation again. And I am not too thrilled that we're the next opponent up, to be honest. So it's going to be a good game. But again, I think it's the theme of this show right now, of this episode, is penalties. And I know we're early in the season, a lot of new guys, a lot of transfers. Everyone's trying to figure out how to work together. Just clean it up.
A lot of dumb penalties too, like just like, don't hit a guy if he's behind the ball. Like, don't knock the quarterback over unless he's got the ball. Like, why are you even touching the cat? You know they're gonna flag you for that stuff
Every single time.
It's just it's stupid penalties. And I get that football players are going to be aggressive and yada yada, but at the same time, you kind of have to go, all right, I need to pump the brakes. Like,
We almost had a fight in this one. I mean, that chippy.
Oh, I missed
That
that.
was right
When
off.
did
That was right off
happen?
the bat.
Oh, really? It got chippy that early? Oh,
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
they went in chippy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Two players going at it. Was it a punt, or I think it was? But anyways, they were
Yeah.
kind of going at it, and I think a Georgia player drug a Kentucky player to the ground, and then he got up shoving, and then they just started shoving each other, and it turned into a thing. So,
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, a lot of lessons to be learned. Hopefully that will be learned from that one. So we'll see. All right, so I just got a few notes here on the rest of these kind of blowouts. Obviously, Texas game, a big news there. Ewers exiting the game with an abdominal injury, and Arch Manning coming in and just continues to light things up on the scoreboard as if nothing changed. Granted, it's University of Texas at San Antonio. I get it.
Roadrunners.
This is the hype that everybody wanted. Everybody wanted to see Arch play, and they did. Tough loss for Vandy against Georgia State. For Auburn, Hank Brown got his first career start for Auburn in place of Peyton Thorne, and he threw for 4 touchdowns.
That first half looked very much like the last time that Auburn played New Mexico.
Right.
It was bad. It was rough. By the way,
Toledo.
are we gonna completely bypass the fact that Georgia State rushed the field after they beat Vanderbilt?
Well, I mean,
All 17 of their fans.
do they typically have occasion to do that? I might give it to them, and especially since there's like 17, nobody's in danger, right?
There
So,
was nobody at that game. I'm really shocked that it happened. Anyway,
so Toledo at Mississippi State. My only comment for this one was ugh because Toledo won 41-17. It was just embarrassing. And then Matt, I want to give you a moment. Obviously, I think you probably want to touch on Tennessee's performance against. I know it's a ridiculous win in crazy fashion.
so I anticipated us to come out fast. I did not anticipate us to come out that fast. I don't remember the exact number. 37 points in the first quarter. I think that's the most points we've scored in an opening quarter since like 1917 or something like that. And again, Kent State's like 108 out of 112 FBS teams right now. Like they're not ranked very high. They're not a good team, unfortunately. Also, this was another shutout for Tennessee's football for their defense. This is their 16th straight quarter without giving up an offensive touchdown. And that's against some kind of Midland teams. But remember, they played Iowa in the bowl game, which didn't have a prolific offense, mind you, but still a pretty substantial and pretty important thing. And on a personal note, just because I feel like we need to talk about this, there's been a lot of talk about Tennessee running up the score, and a lot of people, especially with the kick. I don't know if did y'all see the onside
kick when
kick?
you're up by 30 points.
Yeah, when you're up by 30. So I did a little bit of sleuthing, and I figured out that the special teams coach, this is all secondhand, by the way, so take this with a grain of salt. The special teams coach had trained the kickers that if there is a big old gap between guys on the line, you kick it in that gap and hope one of our guys runs it down. So that was not a hypo call. That was
just the kicker.
That was taking
rogue.
advantage of a situation. So I do want to remind everybody that this is a Tennessee program that less than 10 years ago lost at home to Appalachian State and Air Force and Georgia State. So I don't want to hear any complaining about us running up the score. This is a team that traditionally over the last 10 to 12 years has not been able to put away inferior opponents, and it was nice to completely bomb out a team that we should have beaten to death. And we did.
To be fair, didn't they offer to shorten the second half each quarter?
They did. They asked the Kent State coach, hey, listen, do you want to do running clock or shortened quarters? And the Kent State coach said, nope. Okay.
We're so close.
Game on. So yeah, I don't want to hear any because there's been people all over Twitter arguing about, well, Tennessee's classless and Tennessee's trash and blah blah blah. Shut up. It's football. If it was Bama doing this, you wouldn't say a dadgum thing. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, and Kent State not doing the GOAT anything to be proud of. That's where Nick Saban went. So
yeah,
come on, you gotta do better.
Although he did not pick them on game day.
That was a good decision.
Yeah, he was like, they can't beat anybody.
You made a wise choice, my friend.
He played. You know what? There's a golden opportunity. No pun intended. There's a golden opportunity for him to go back and rebuild his alma mater. I think he should do it.
I don't think he wants to.
I guarantee he'll do it. He'll do it on the cheap. It'll be great.
Man, that would
make it too much for VRBO. He doesn't need.
Oh my God, those VRBO commercials.
That would truly be a charity project. I think.
Can we talk about the USAA commercials for a second? Because
with Gronk and Sam Elliott.
They're god awful. They're so bad.
Which is just a shame because Sam Elliott's so great.
Sam Elliott's great. Like I have no problem with. But what the heck is Gronk's fat head doing up there? Says the guy with a fat head. Let's move on.
All right, so let's get out of here. Pick 'em points. I got 17. Jesse has 15. Matt has 7. I know you're shaking your head, but we got so many games.
I can't say what comment note I made in the doc. Y'all should see it. My mother would be very disappointed.
Well, there's a lot of time left, a lot of games left. So let's go into our helmet stickers segment. Matt, let's start with you. Who are your recipients of the helmet stickers for this week?
All right, so as far as my picks for helmet stickers this week, I got to give one to Arch Manning coming off the bench, 9 for 12 for 223 yards and 4 touchdowns in the air, and then a big 67-yard scramble for 1 TD, so 5 overall touchdowns. Granted, it's UTSA, so don't get too excited. But I think that's pretty pretty impressive to come out
Immediate
straight out the
Heisman
gate,
front runner.
and immediately everybody is drooling over him. Every Texas fan in the entire state probably was about to explode from sheer joy. So Arch Manning coming off the bench and putting up pretty impressive numbers. I hate Quinn Ewers is hurt because Quinn seems like a pretty good kid. Hopefully he'll be able to recover soon. Arch just needs to just bide his time. He'll get his chance. I don't foresee, because Quinn's a senior this year, right?
I believe so.
I think.
Yeah.
So you only got to sit behind him for a year. You'll be fine. The other helmet sticker I have to give to a couple different people. It's the whole running back room for Tennessee. Yes, I'm being a little bit of a homer. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. So Dylan Sampson, 101 yards and 4 touchdowns. Deshaun Bishop's made himself a name known, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Peyton Lewis didn't get any TDs, but he still got 1 yard short of 100. So 456 yards of rushing in this game. And yes, it's Kent State. Yes, I know that. It doesn't negate the fact that there were 6 overall touchdowns for this running back room in this game. So, and they've been very, 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 very good. I'm really shocked Dylan Sampson's name has not shown up in the Heisman contention quite yet, because if I pull up his stats, that's the wrong Dylan Sampson. If I pull up his stats, still the wrong one. Sampson, not Simpson. What are you doing, Fortson? If I pull up his stats,
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, right there.
He has 45 carries. He's got almost 400 yards.
Okay.
And 9 touchdowns.
Pretty good average.
That's pretty dadgum good. That's about 8 yards every time he touches the ball, which if you're a running back, that's the number you want. So yeah, definitely the running back room. Tennessee's pass offense looks good. The run defense looks good. We're excited, but in the back of my mind, way back here, about in section XX, right up here, is my battered Vols syndrome, kind of saying, "You're not that great. Y'all are gonna lose to Oklahoma." Like, that's happening right now. So I'm trying to ignore it.
That.
I'm suppressing it. It will probably come back as a polyp or something. But anyway, you get the idea.
All right. All right. Cool. Well, those are good. Jesse, what are your helmet sticker winners?
Call me a homer as well. I can't help it, but I am going to pick Jalen Milroe as one. I think he was 12 for 17. I already mentioned his stats earlier, nearly 200 yards in the air for 3 touchdowns. He also had 75 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. That's just a stellar performance, and he didn't even play the whole game. So we were really excited. I think Jalen Milroe has started to cement himself as a true leader, and for some reason, there was still a little bit of grumblings and doubt about him going into this season, not necessarily from Alabama fans, but I feel like the media in general was still like, oh, are we sure though? Remember, he was benched last season for like half a game. And it's like, okay, we're done with that narrative. And hopefully a performance like this has started to show those naysayers and let them know. My other one is going to be for the Kentucky defense. All of the Kentucky defense. Georgia only converted just 5 of their 13 third down chances. Again, we know that they had penalties, but Kentucky was getting a lot of pressure on Beck, and they held Georgia to 13. I mean, that's really impressive. Their defense is the reason that they had a chance in this game. So if I'm a Kentucky fan, you may think your offense is slightly anemic, and it is, but you've got a defense. So my helmet sticker to those 11 guys.
Cool. Like those. Yeah, so my first helmet sticker winner is Marcel Reed, quarterback for the Aggies. Because no big deal. First start as a freshman on the road at the Swamp, and all he did was lead the Aggies to an absolute rout of Florida. So he gets my first sticker. Second sticker goes to Kentucky kicker Alex Rayner, who almost single-handedly took down the #1 team at the time in the nation with his kicking leg. in the end, it wasn't enough, but still an amazing effort going 4 for 4 on those field goals. I think was it 1 or 2 were over 50 yards as well. He really
There were
great
a
night.
couple. They were pretty good
Yeah.
ones. By the way, we didn't talk about that incomplete pass interception thing during the
Yeah.
Kentucky
Oh.
game.
It
did
definitely hit the ground.
Yeah, well, even if it hadn't hit the ground, he had made the catch and it landed. Like the ground
Oh,
calls
right.
for
I
pop-up.
get it.
I
Yeah.
don't know why you call that. I don't know why
I guess
everybody's.
it was one of those where they're like, we might as well let it play out in the moment, and then we can go back and fix it later.
That's what instant replay's for. So
Yeah.
I still thought that was an interesting play.
Yeah.
It's a real shame it didn't stand because
I hear
that
you.
would have been interesting.
All right, well, let's move to a speed round segment.
Speed round.
All right, so our first speed round question, true or false? Quinn Ewers has seen his last snap as a starting quarterback at Texas. Matt, let's start with you. You're shaking your head.
I'm going to go ahead and put false on that because I don't think. Yes, Arch came in off the bench and went nuts and got a helmet sticker from yours truly, but that doesn't negate the fact that it was still UTSA. If he had done that against Bama, okay, maybe. If he had done that against like Ole Miss, sure, but no. Let's not inaugurate the kid yet. You got to Quinn's earned that spot. Let him keep it.
Okay, false for you, Jesse.
False for me. I don't think that the coaching staff or Coach Sark is not going to give into the hype. He knows he has a commodity there, but I think he also understands that he has an experienced player in Quinn Ewers, and he's built trust there. And it's not a good look as a coach when you've invested so much and this player has gotten you to the, at what was once, the number one ranking. And then you bench him just because he got hurt and another guy came in and like ran a touchdown. To me, that's just not a good look. He's also in the Dr. Pepper commercial. So we've got to continue to let him
Specifically talking
start.
about backups, right?
I wonder what that NIL deal looks like.
Yeah.
Probably very profitable.
So
No, I don't think so. I think that Coach Sarkisian and his staff understand that you've got a tried and true trusted person and leader, because he's also a leader on the team. And I think
Right.
that makes a difference. He has not seen his last snap.
Here's the problem that I have with this type of injury is because with this abdominal injury, it could be 3-4 weeks. It could be longer than that, depending on the severity of it. So let's just say that, let's say that it's 3 to 4 weeks, which is kind of, I think, middle of the road time span. Let's say that Arch Manning just goes on a tear in that span of time, and he's just leading the team to quality win after quality win. It's hard to justify at that point. You're in kind of like the reverse scenario where as a coach, I can't pull the kid out. He's on a hot streak. So I don't know. I'm torn. And I think I want to err more on the true side just because of the nature of the injury and the fact that Ewers may be out for a significant amount of time. So, I'm going to say true. I'm going to go out on a limb and say true on that one.
Oh.
By the way, I just pulled up their schedule. They've got UL Monroe this week. They have Mississippi State the next week, and then then they have a bye week the first week of October, and then they get a week, October 12th date with Oklahoma. They got to go Oklahoma, Georgia back to back. So there might be some credence there, Wes. If he's got the hot hand, why are you going to change horses midstream?
Right. Exactly.
I'm starting to reconsider my fault.
All right. Well, let's move to the next one. True or false? The only reason I'm going to have to shorten this caption for a TikTok clip or something because it's really long. The only reason Florida is taking so long to make it official that they're moving on from Billy Napier is so they can finalize the contract with Lane Kiffin.
False.
Jesse, what do you got?
False. Absolutely false. I don't think that there's a chance that Lane Kiffin goes to Florida. He's got a good thing going at Ole Miss right now. He's being very successful. And I would venture to say that the pockets in Oxford, if they get wind of someone trying to steal him, they're going to pay out. Because here's the thing. Lane wants to be a successful head coach. He's been a very successful coordinator. He wants to be a successful head coach and make a name there. I don't think he's going to leave what is a really good situation to go to a really bad situation. That just, to me, doesn't make sense. The only way I think Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss is if he goes to the pros.
Played
Okay.
that game already.
So that was an immediate false from you. Matt, what do you got?
I had to break out the pencil for this. It's mechanical, but it'll still pull the point. Not so fast, my friend. I have a hard time imagining that Lane Kiffin's going to say no to a large amount of money. If Florida decides to pull the trigger on Billy Napier and give him his walking papers, you best believe they're going to have to make a splash hire. They have to. I don't think you can really afford not to get a splash hire at this point. And the name that could be the biggest splash of them all would be Lane Kiffin. And by the way, I completely rebuke that in the name of the God Emperor, but that doesn't negate the fact that is a possibility. So I am gonna say Charles because I'm kind of in the middle.
You
Like
sound like one of the kids whose papers you grade that writes true and false.
Yeah. I've had a couple try that before. This is a D, son. That's a B. No, it's in the middle. Look. Yeah, I just don't see it. But I do see it. It's weird. I'm conflicted. I can't give you a straight answer.
You're not going to give us okay.
I said Charles.
Charles. So Matt, you and I were talking before we started recording, and like this is the stuff that as a Georgia fan that nightmares are made of is Lane Kiffin, the potential for him to go to Florida because I think his personality suits that place, as Dan mentioned last week, the brashness of like a Steve Spurrier-esque type of person. I think that he would thrive in Gainesville, and I think it would not be good for everyone else. Now, would he actually take the deal given what he's got at Ole Miss right now and given the situation that's in Florida? I think I'm erring more on false for this one. As much as, would it be a great story, a wild story for him to go to Florida? Yeah, and it would be, a hot topic for, weeks to come, and people will be abuzz about it for sure. But I don't know. I'm having a harder time wrapping my head around that one actually happening. So I'm gonna say false for that one. So
okay.
All right, cool. So I think we're gonna go ahead and get into our predictions for week 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right. Well, speaking of Florida, they are the first game that we've got in this lineup. Florida 1-2, 0-1 in the SEC at Mississippi State, 1-2, 0-0 in the SEC. Noon on ESPN. For me, this is the dumpster fire game of the week. Flip a coin, honestly, is how I just sort of was thinking of this one. I am going to go Florida here, though, just because Mississippi State just looked so awful last week. I'm going Florida 28-24. Jesse, what do you got?
Woof. This one's just woof. I went back and forth in my noggin on this one. I'm gonna pick the Gators just because I think they showed a little bit more life than Mississippi State did last week, and that's not saying much. It's gonna be a close dumpster fire one here. I'm picking the Gators 24-23.
All right, Matt.
Flip a coin, indeed, because it's really just whichever way it's this is a lot like when you're making a sandwich, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you got really nice Jif peanut butter. Yes, Jif, not that other crap. Y'all can take your Peter Pan stuff and shove it. Really nice Jif peanut butter with a little bit of crunch in it, not too much, just a little bit. And then right as you're going to match it up with the Welch's grape jelly on the other end of the bread.
We have product placement for both ingredients here,
and it lands straight face down on the counter, which you hadn't wiped down today, right on the peanut butter. That's what this game is.
Yeah.
So yes, it is going to be not pretty. But because Mississippi State kind of got embarrassed against Toledo, I think they're going to take a little bit more pride this week. I think they're going to be a little bit more focused. Plus, it's at home, and that should give them a little bit of advantage. So I like them at 2. Cowbells will be a ring-a-linging, so to speak. So I like 28-24 MSU.
All right. Next is Ohio at 2-1 at Kentucky 1-2, 12:45 on the SEC Network. I don't think Kentucky has any problem with this one. I got Kentucky winning 31-10. Jesse, what do you got?
I'm also going to go with the Wildcats here. I think this week they're hopefully going to score a touchdown. Maybe more than one. Who knows? So I'm going to pick the Cats here, 21-17.
All right, Matt.
Wes, you better put some respect on the Ohio University.
The Ohio.
Throwing a little bit of shade at our Buckeyes listeners,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
6 of them.
I caught that. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, this is going to be a rough day for all cats of all varieties. But I really feel like that the Bobcats are in trouble here. UK is going to be looking to come out and make a statement after last week's loss. Offense is going to be online a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and pick UK to win this thing 35-17.
All right. Next, Arkansas 2-1, 0-0 in the SEC. At Auburn 2-1, 0-0 in the SEC. 3:30 on ESPN. I expect Taylon Green and Jaquindon Jackson to challenge Auburn's defense here, but I think the atmosphere at Jordan-Hare helps, and I think Hank Brown, they were making all the jokes, what can Brown do for you? But then they said, no, what can Brown do for Hugh?
Oh, that's
gosh.
awful.
It was terrible.
That's bad. That's so bad.
Assuming he gets to start again, I think he might provide a spark that the Tigers need to get it done. So I'm going Auburn here, 31-27. Jesse?
I'm going to pick Arkansas in this one. And there's really no reason why other than Auburn hatred. And the fact that I was not impressed with how they started against New Mexico. Again, I know they ended up beating the brakes off of them. Fine, sure, whatever. And weird things happen at Jordan-Hare. We know.
Sure.
I know, but I want this for Sam Pittman. I really do. So I'm going to manifest this into existence. I'm going to pick the Razorbacks 34-28.
All right. Matt, what do you got?
When I looked at the over-under on this earlier, the over-under was 59. And I'm definitely going to take the under. Both of these offenses have really done nothing to inspire confidence. So I am going to give Auburn the edge here because they are at home. And I'm going to say Auburn wins 24-20.
All righty. Next is UCLA 1-1 at number 16, LSU 2-1. This is at 3:40 on ABC. The Tigers, I think, are expected to dominate this one at home against a UCLA team that got trounced by Indiana. So I'm going to say LSU here, 38-14. Jesse?
I agree. This is a game that is at Death Valley. It's not necessarily a night game, but it is a later afternoon game. So I think UCLA is going to struggle a little bit here, and LSU got pretty embarrassed this past weekend, and they don't want to stay there. So I'm picking the Tigers here, 35-17.
Good pick, Matt.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and label this as a bounce back game. I have nothing but faith in LSU right now. I think that they were glad they got out of Columbia with the win last week. I think they're going to be focused in this one. I like LSU's chances. So LSU 42-10.
All right, so let's move to Vanderbilt, 2-1, 0-0 in SEC. At number 7, Missouri, 3-0, 0-0 in the SEC. 4:15 on the SEC network. Matt, we were also talking. I was really hoping that both of these teams would be undefeated when they met, just cause. But Vandy lost to Georgia State, and I think they'll get beat up pretty good here. I got Mizzou winning this one 35-13, and I think Vandy scores only 2 field goals and then gets a late touchdown in garbage time for that final 13 there. Jesse, what do you got?
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's going to Vanderbilt here. I think Mizzou was pretty embarrassed with their performance this past weekend as well. I think they're going to try to clean up those penalties here. And luckily they have somewhat of a tune-up game when it comes to playing Vanderbilt, especially at home. So I'm picking MIZ 41-10.
I love how you just turn into Drinky for that one phrase.
Please don't ever do that again. Please don't do that. No more. No more.
Matt, what do you got?
Hey, listen now, y'all. Yeah, hold on a second. So listen, this is a Vanderbilt team that was looking ahead to SEC play.
Okay.
That's the reason why Georgia State snuck on them. I can go with that. I have nothing but faith. Nothing but faith in the. Sorry. I'm picking Missouri. I'm sorry. I tried to work myself into it. I do think this game, being a little bit serious, I do think this game's going to be a little bit closer than what y'all are saying. In fact, I think Missouri may pull away late third, early fourth. And at that point, they'll get the W. But I think Vanderbilt might make it a little tough on them. So I'm going to say Missouri wins 28-14.
28-14. Okay. All right, let's move to the game that I'm probably most excited about this upcoming week, and that is number 6, Tennessee, 3-0, 0-0 in the SEC, at number 15, Oklahoma, 3-0, 0-0 in the SEC. That is 7:30 on ABC. I know the spread on this one, I don't really understand. I know it's a home game for Oklahoma, but I'm honestly surprised that Tennessee isn't favored by more than they are, which I don't know. It could have changed. When I looked earlier today, it was 7.5. I know the Vols haven't been tested too much this year. I mean, NC State was a test, I suppose, but Oklahoma has looked pretty bad against less than stellar competition many times this season. So I'm going to go Vols here, and I'm going to go 35-17. Jesse?
This is really the first time we're going to get to see a tried and true SEC team venturing into Norman, and with an Oklahoma that's now part of the SEC. So I'm very interested in this game, a night game at Oklahoma. I think the Vols take care of business, but I think the first half is going to be closer than we expect. It's going to be a good game for a little bit, and then I think Tennessee starts to pull away. So I'm going to pick the Vols here, 38-21.
Okay. Matt, I definitely want to hear your pick, but I also want to hear what's the vibe like with Heupel going back to Norman.
There has been a lot of talk. For those of you that don't know, Heupel obviously was quarterback at the University of Oklahoma when they won the national championship 2000. He was runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, which is a useless piece of hardware, but he was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in 2000 behind Chris Winkie. Not even going to start up on that right now. But anyway, and this is the first time that he'll have been back in a coaching capacity since he was fired as the OC at Oklahoma in 2011, 2012. I don't remember the exact year. So there's been a lot of hubbub. This game has been circled on the calendar by Tennessee fans, and I'm sure by Coach Heupel for a really long time. And I've been talking about it on Twitter with other Tennessee fans. Heupel has a different look in his eye this season. If you watch his interviews, he definitely has a certain look just right here. Go back and watch a couple of his interviews. He's on some different stuff this year. He doesn't seem quite as steely-eyed is a good word for it, I guess. With that being said, my battered Vol syndrome is going all off the chart. I keep oscillating between thinking we're going to blow the crap off the doors and just completely beat them to death, and then the other part of me is going, we're going to completely drop the ball and look like Tennessee from 2012 or something. I don't know. And I do want to point out, this is an interesting stat that I saw on Twitter earlier today. This is the first time the Sooners have been a touchdown home underdog since November of 1998 when they played Texas Tech at home and they were an underdog. This is also the first time a ranked Oklahoma team has been more than just a little bit under a touchdown underdog since 1978, as far as a ranked Oklahoma team is concerned. So there's some stuff going on here. There's a lot of juju around this game. All of that being said, I am scared to death, and I'm not going to be able to watch this game until Sunday morning because I have a birthday party I have to go to. So there's that. With that in mind, I am going to pick the Vols. This is my heart more than my logic kicking in. I'm hoping that we come out strong and then Oklahoma has a lot of question marks on defense. On offense. Their offensive line hasn't looked great. Quarterback play's been kind of and so I think Tennessee can take care of business here as long as they can pull it. So I like Tennessee here 42-24. Oh, that's not wrong.
Are you going to be checking live score updates, or are you going to try to remain spoiler free till the morning? Because that's going to be really hard.
I'm hoping I can watch it late Saturday night. It just depends if my wife will let me. I don't know yet. I'm going to try and abstain so I can watch the game. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore.
It's going to be a wild one for sure. I believe that. All right, let's move to Akron at 1-2, at South Carolina 2-1, 7:30 on ESPNU. It's sort of another one of those games. I don't think South Carolina has a real issue here. I'm going to go Carolina 38-10. Jesse, what's your prediction?
And this is a good opportunity for the Gamecocks to clean up those penalties against Akron. So I think they take care of business here as well and pick in South Carolina 31-10.
All right, Matt.
The Zips will not be so zippy in Columbia that evening, excuse me. So 35-14 South Carolina.
All right, next is Bowling Green 1-1 at number 25. Texas A&M climbing back into the AP top 25. 2-1, 7:30 on ESPN Plus. Here's a fun fact.
Jesse had the exact same reaction. We're just like, wow.
Doesn't count. I know. Fun fact: this is sixth year senior Connor Bazelak, who, if you recall, if that name's familiar, spent 3 seasons at Mizzou, is now the starting quarterback for Bowling Green. He's still playing.
Bro, he's been playing since like 1970. He's been playing since the Carter administration. What are we doing?
Yeah. All these players in their late 20s still playing these days. Play
against 17-year-olds.
Exactly. A&M dominates this one though, so I'm going to A&M 38-13. Jesse, what do you got?
I'm gonna pick youth over age in this one. I'm picking Texas A&M 31-13.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I don't foresee Bowling Green being able to put up much of a fight, so I'm going to say 42-14 TMU.
All right. Let's move to Georgia Southern, 2-1 at number 5 Ole Miss, 3-0, 7:45 on SEC Network. This is one of those tune-up games, yawner for Ole Miss. I'm going Ole Miss 49-14 here. Jesse?
It can be. Georgia Southern did, when I was in school, give Alabama a little bit of trouble.
They did.
So they have been known to give schools trouble.
Like stuff through a tin horn.
Yeah. I think Ole Miss takes care of business here. I don't think it's going to be a very fun trip for Georgia Southern in Oxford. So I'm going to pick Ole Miss 52-10.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I just don't see Ole Miss slowing down in this game. No disrespect to the Eagles from Statesboro, but I just think Ole Miss has got too many weapons. So 56-10 Ole Miss.
All right, and then the final game, UL Monroe 2-0 at number 1 Texas, the brand new number 1 team in all the land, 3-0. 8 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Another snoozer, unfortunately, as the nightcap. I'm going Texas here, 49-6. Jesse, what do you got?
Boring, but I'm sure the Arch Manning hype will continue. I'm picking the Longhorns here, 49-3.
Hey, Matt. As Nacho Libre would say, take it easy. I think Texas is going to roll just fine here. Arch Manning's going to throw for 4 touchdowns and run for another. I'm saying 5 touchdown day for Arch. Okay. So 52-10 Texas.
Wow.
All right.
I'm buying in the hype. He's got Manning as last name. I'm all for it.
He does not run like a Manning. He runs much better than the
other. No, he does run a lot better. Do you ever? There's a couple times I saw Peyton roll out of the pocket. I'm like, bro, you better be careful.
That was a great couple of minutes on that sprint to the outside there. But I think I saw Peyton say about Arch, he said, yeah, the running ability of Archie has skipped a generation. So
Cooper was the wide receiver brother, right? Wasn't Cooper?
Yeah.
I think that's Arch's uncle. So yeah, he was the speedster. Apparently it skipped around. Who knows?
All right, well, that does it for the upcoming games. Looking forward to some of the bigger matchups this week. We're getting into SEC play and some more exciting ones for sure. If you would like to contact us, please email us at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We are at pigskinsandpageantry on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget we are at PPSEC Podcast on X. Don't forget we are available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. And I cannot believe
I missed Twitter. It's Twitter.
I was literally about to comment on that, and you came in on cue there.
Face out.
If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and review. We'd love 5 stars to increase visibility and increase our likelihood of having conversations with wonderful people like yourselves. So Until next time, this is Wes. It is a bye week, but go Dogs.
Rest up, Bama Nation. We have quite the task ahead of us next week. So enjoy it while we can. Roll Tide.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Go Vols.